from the party at the end of the module. Yeah, if you weren't there, you missed something. But I needed a day off the next day, really. Lots of bogas. Anyway, Happy New Year of the Snake. I think 2013 is going to be a good year overall. Do you have any questions, maybe? Okay. This is the third module. The last module also. It's also the module in which we start practicing Samadhi. And although lesson 81 starts with an introduction into a new approach to asana practice, we have been applying this actually already. Maybe not consciously, but just as a result of our developments. Eventually, asana is practiced in total silence. We feel the asana, that is most important, and it is not a mental affair anymore, but it becomes a causal affair. So the wishing power that we have talked about will be applied in Samadhi also, because Samadhi is driven by that subtle force from the heart. Asana is the same, in fact. Yesterday we started a new level 1 course, basic course. We had a 15-minute meditation, and it was so remarkable how many people struggled sitting there for just 15 minutes. Considering that you are all able to sit here for 65 minutes is an incredible accomplishment indeed. Not only just sitting there, but being focused. And that shows you've come a long way. We all have come a long way. For the people coming yesterday to the new course, you see also very clearly how superficial asana practice is in the beginning. It is something that people impose upon themselves. I must do this. It's mentally driven. It costs a lot of effort. There is no sukha, easiness. And I think most of you have experienced this sukha. Sukha being the result of your reinforcement, your increasing strength and health as a result. Because developments always come very gradually, you may not even have been so much aware of your changes, improvements on all levels. But if you look back maybe to when you started in the basic course, and you remember your condition at that time, and you remember how you approached your practice, you come to the conclusion that it is a difference between day and night, in fact. Most of what is written in today's handout. It's a very long one, 9 pages. To Sean's frustration, having to work through those long files to edit them while already being so busy. But most of what's in the handout, I have introduced you to already on various occasions to make you gradually become familiar with it. I've often mentioned the wow feeling, and Samadhi actually really is that simple. Just introduce a wow feeling. If you look at little children who have not been polluted yet on all 3 levels, you will see that they have wow feelings all day, every day. Fickle, unstable, but they live in ecstasy and bliss all the time. As a yogi, you will go back to that state, to that condition. And what we try to do to benefit more from it, to become masters, what we try to do is to not just spontaneously experience wow, but to actually sustain it and consolidate, leading to yet another enormous leap forward in your development. This leap, however, is not a sudden leap, so again, it is a gradual development that you will hardly notice. But in the future, you will one day look back and see what an enormous impact it has on your life, on you and your life, the way you live your life. And very interestingly, it leads to not only control of life, it leads also to the manifestation of your deepest wishes. This is difficult to believe or even to imagine. It's not even a matter of belief. It's difficult to imagine if you have not already experienced it yourself. But all the promises that the yoga books give us, seemingly symbolical stories, fairy tales even, they do come true. If you just hang in there. It is all a matter of patience, controlling your impatience, in fact. I remember how impatient I have been over the years, hungry for development, hungry for the fulfillment of my visions. But there were always 2 entities at work. Interestingly, there was a hare, impatient, full of restless energy, and on the other hand, there was the tortoise, which is intuition, which is the heart. Everybody has those 2 entities, but it is the practice of yoga that has put emphasis on the heart. And while in most people, the voice of the head, the hare, the voice of the head is over shouting the tiny little voice of the heart, the tortoise. Your yoga practice reverses roles. Your heart more and more takes a prominent role, and the head becomes a supporter of the heart rather than overshouting it. Sometimes it is an obstacle, but with practice and experience, you become more and more aware of how they work and how to recognize when it is becoming an obstacle and then giving you the possibility to avoid the trap that is occurring. I have heard during the break from somebody saying, it happens every time when we have a little break that people lose courage because the routine is broken and you start to enjoy, of course, your free Sundays. That people start to doubt themselves. That happens almost every break. Am I practicing right? Or I'm not practicing at all, so am I not fooling myself? When I was in training with Ajita, I also didn't practice much. But I noticed later, I understood later, that yoga was taking place outside of the classroom, while I was doing my work, while I was being at home, while I was walking in the park. Even better, I noticed that those fellow students who were very fanatically practicing and studying their materials and so on, I noticed that they were more engaged on a mental level, while the people not so serious, like I, were more engaged on a causal level. And that is, in the end, what it is all about. So do not worry. Maybe your progress or your development will be slow, or at least in your perception. You make enormous changes. You go through enormous changes. If you look at the 1.5 years that you've been in class now, you cannot but come to the conclusion that enormous changes have taken place. Look at other people who have not gone through this process. Compare yourself with them and you will see that they've stood still. And they've been doing so before, and they will continue to do so while you have taken the dynamic path. Also, when the course is finished, that path doesn't stop. You will continue to develop. You will continue to grow. Samadhi is also something, again, it seems like a superficial exercise, a technique, but it is something that will occur during your daily activities, or rather inactivities. It occurs in between your activities, in the moments, maybe while you sit on the toilet, while you brush your teeth, while you walk to the subway station, while you eat your muffin or drink your coffee. Because Samadhi, not only Samadhi, all the techniques in fact that we are learning become a result, spontaneous result of your improving condition. Your health has improved enormously, and if you think that is not the case, then remember what I said about people having great difficulty just sitting in Sukhasana for 15 minutes, and you being able to do that now for 65 minutes. If you think you have not improved, then this is proof that you have improved your condition. And with that, you have improved your levels of energy and the harmony of that energy, and that leads to the natural occurrence of the techniques that we are all practicing superficially. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi are all the result of your improving condition. So we have reversed the process. To improve our condition, we have superficially practiced those techniques. But it works the other way around. As a result of the improvements that occur from the superficial approach, your condition becomes more and more such that throughout your days and nights, also during sleep, you are in the conditions that we implied superficially before. Samadhi, dhyana, dharana, pratyahara also more and more will become second nature. Your ability to just detach from things that bother you but are actually irrelevant. It becomes second nature. It becomes natural, integrated into your life. Yoga becomes you and you become yoga. I'm telling you all this to give you some faith in the process that you are going through. Because you are truly going somewhere. Do not doubt. And I'm telling you this because I have had so much doubt in the first 10, 15 years of my yoga practice myself. And it is because of the things that I learned, that I realized, in fact, in the years following, that I've understood that there is no need to doubt. It is the head that is throwing spanners in the works. And it is the heart that has no doubt whatsoever. So when you feel doubt, refer to all that you have learned. When you feel doubt, realize also that it is only your head throwing up clouds of dust, being impatient for accomplishments that take many years to manifest. John?
When you say the head, do you mean the ego? The same thing?
Not necessarily, but the ego indeed is a big obstacle. But when you talk about ego, the ego really kicks in when emotion is involved. A thought loaded with emotion is ego. Ego is when you identify your person, when you identify yourself with some situation that causes a huge eruption in your energy, you are very calm, sattvic, ego kicks in because of something happening around you, somebody saying something to you, or maybe a loved one passing away. You identify with that situation, so thought with emotion, and the ego takes over. You cry or you explode in anger, but there is a huge wave of emotion as a result of that. So we have learned about this process, identification with the seer and the seen, etc., to become aware of how it works, giving us also the handle, the power, to step in and bring the ego under control. But when I talk about the head, I'm not necessarily referring to ego, although ego is always to some extent involved, but it is more about, we always have a need to rationalize things, to be skeptical. And this rationalization all the time combined with fear, because fear is one of the biggest motivators in a human being, leads to doubt. The fear of death, literally fear of death, is caused in people because they think, if I die, there is so much that I will miss. How will this world look like in 2100? I will not know. When the first human being will fly to Mars, I want to be witness of that. If I die, I will never be a witness to that. I'm now saying this in a very rational way, but people really are scared of missing out on things, and that is why they are afraid to die. And that is because of the head being involved. When you live more and more from the heart, and the head has stopped throwing spanners in the works, you will also lose your fear of death. Because you know what will happen in 2100. And you know that one day man will be on Mars. You don't have to be a witness to that. You already are, because you have a vision. And this vision will develop more and more to the point that you know what will happen in 2300, 500. To the point that you see where mankind is going. That means that you are already there. You don't have to be there in a physical body. You're already there, you know. And you live from the heart. You fulfill your heart's content, your dharma. And that's all there is to life. And when you drop that tomorrow, you have peace with that. Because you have fulfilled your heart's content to that point. That is really the feeling that I have about dying. I have peace with that. Can you follow that? Can you imagine that or not yet? You will also go in that direction. So, I don't know if you have the edited version of the handout. Sean put a nice picture there of the biggest dump truck in the world. You can see, if you look, you can see there is a man standing next to it. This man looks like a little ant compared to the truck. Well, maybe you're not interested in technology, but if you are, just try to imagine the enormity of this thing. A little while ago, I put a picture on Facebook of the biggest tree in the world. Did you see it? It's like a castle. I didn't know such tree existed. It is so huge, it's like a castle. I mentioned redwoods before. This is not a redwood. I think it's an oak or whatever it is. It's not important. Redwoods are very tall. This one is very big. The trunk of this tree is as big as a house, or bigger even. There's also a man standing next to that tree, or a person. It's just incredible. Wow feeling is very simple. Look at the flower. The spring is coming soon. Look at the flower. The flowers on the riverside or on the mountains. in and around soul, the flowers start to bloom. You have those fluffy little things in reeds that are already coming out. Just look at it. Look, soak up the details, the beauty. You will have a wow feeling. If that doesn't work, then think of the universe. The stars, the planets, the balance, the coherence that keeps it all together in a well-oiled machine, in fact. Most of you will have some object of ecstasy. Something in your life, maybe in your neighborhood or in your city or surrounding areas of your city. I told you there is an oak tree in Amsterdam that I used to always go to before I came to Korea. I can't go there anymore, but when I go to Amsterdam, after 4 or 5 years not having been there, and I go there again, I see it growing. It was already so big. But not seeing it for so many years, seeing it again, I see it growing. Incredible. That is wow. And I go there just, if only for the wow feeling. This tree is my friend. I really see it like that. When you try to induce samadhi, Savicara Samadhi, which is sattva with a little bit of rajas, that is ecstasy, that is joy. You know the expression jumping for joy, right? That comes from this. It is rajas upon sattva. Look at children when they savor the promise of getting a candy. They literally jump for joy. That is ecstasy. But in a controlled way, of course. You sit there very quietly. You introduce the image of your object of ecstasy. And the difficulty with samadhi, and that is why you learn samadhi in the last stage, the difficulty with samadhi is to not get lost in that image. Image of the dump truck and its technology, or the tree and its beauty, and the years that it has been standing there, its history. You really have to extract the image from the feeling and float away on that feeling. Only that feeling. And that's only possible if you're functioning in the heart. You have that feeling in your heart. The image, the visualization is in your head. You use your head as a kickstarter, as a motor. But you have to know when to turn off the motor and keep the flywheel going in the form of that feeling in your heart. So this requires practice and application of pratyahara. Every time you practice samadhi, you will inevitably get lost in the image, in the thoughts related to the object that you use. And every time you just have to step in, use pratyahara, and try to go back to the essence of the exercise. Samadhi is very refined. So it's difficult or impossible for people to practice at the beginning stages of the course. It requires your ability to withdraw yourself, literally, but also figuratively. You create your own silent space, in a material sense, at home or here. In a figurative way, you close your eyes and do not allow anything to interfere, disturb your silence, your safe haven, in fact. And considering your condition, your progress, you have all one way or another created such a haven for yourself. The sutras, we start with the 51st sutra of the second chapter, wrapping up the second chapter. That pranayama which goes beyond the sphere of internal and external is the fourth variety. This is, of course, Kevala Kumbhaka, mentioned already a couple of times before the break. In extension also to what I explained about your improving condition, increasing energy, Kevala Kumbhaka really is the result of your years of practicing Sahita Kumbhaka, which is the pranayama as we know it, with counting, inflow, outflow, retention, etc. Your body restores its natural ability to always come back to sattva. When that ability is in place, you can call it Kevala Kumbhaka. This is a complicated process because it is not just your condition. It is the world that you have built around you throughout the years of your practice and experience that is of great influence in this sense as well. If you look at your life before you started practicing yoga, you will see that there were many things that were distracting you, bothering you. That you will see that there were many things in your life that have no relevance really to the essence of your life, to what you're really looking for in life. That is a condition with distractions that does not allow you to come back to sattva spontaneously. That does not allow Kevala Kumbhaka. Over the years, not only your condition has gotten better, the consciousness has expanded enormously, opened up and expanded enormously, and you have become incredibly sensitive. You have become a truly sentient being. And based upon the realizations that come forth out of this expanding consciousness and your increasing sensitivity, you have started making adjustments into your life. Some people have already changed jobs to find a better environment for themselves to accommodate their newly found condition. There are friends you thought were friends, but were actually just distracting you. There was attachment or misguided compassion. And you may have stopped seeing those friends just based upon the realization that they are actually not real friends, that they are actually sucking your energy out. There are activities that you thought were important in the past that you have stopped engaging in just because you came to the realization that it is superficial and not in line with what you are really looking for in life. And it is all those adjustments on all kind of levels of your life that lead in combination with your improving condition to the natural ability to restore sattva at any moment of the day and the night. That is Kevala Kumbhaka. From that is dissolved the covering of light, 52nd Sutra. Healthy mind in a healthy body. Basically. With your practice, you have improved your condition, raised your energy levels. The dissolvation, the dissolving of the covering of light is your opening up of your consciousness and your expanding consciousness. Dissolving of the covering of light is enlightenment growing in you. Inside, realizations, getting a grasp on yourself and life in general. It is interesting to realize that you don't have to read thick books, study psychology, to understand yourself and life. Actually, all you have to do is change your condition. The practice of yoga, if it is done correctly, meaning that it leads to sattva, leads to enlightenment, leads to dissolving of the covering of light. It's that simple. All you have to do is change the condition. Of course, it is very helpful, and that is what makes this Raja Yoga as opposed to Hatha Yoga. Of course, it is very helpful that you have philosophical backup. Because it is the philosophical backup that makes you consciously realize or makes you consciously aware of your realizations. In the beginning of my developments in yoga, I've struggled, you know that, with doubt and increasing sensitivity that I didn't know how to handle, etc. Some of you have experienced this too. It is the backup of the philosophies that confirm everything that is happening and that take away your doubt. But the developments take place as a result simply of your changing condition. 53rd Sutra, and the fitness of the mind for concentration. So I've actually explained that already in the introduction, that concentration, meditation and samadhi, dharana, dhyana and samadhi, are a result of your fitness, your condition, your good condition, improving condition. And you can see this very clearly in children. To understand this, when you look at children, and most of you are teachers, one way or another, maybe you're a mom. There's no mom in this class yet, not yet. But you see with children that when they are in a good condition, which is of course the responsibility of the parents in the first place, by giving them a regular schedule, routine, and solidity in upbringing, is that they are incredibly smart. And they thrive in school, they thrive in the gym, physical education, or on the sports, on the track. And they are performing well on all three levels, in fact, of their being. Causal level, of course, is different than in adults, but causal level in children is simply their happiness and their bliss and their joy they are living through day by day. This applies to adults in the same way. Fitness of the body, fitness of the mind leads to incredible accomplishments. And you can draw the next conclusion from this, that is, it leads to happiness. Happiness is based upon this fitness, on this condition. And isn't happiness what everybody is looking for in the end? My quest into yoga started with my conclusion that what I wanted in life really was simply to be happy. And then, of course, came the question, how do you do that? And 30 years later, I'm still working on it. But I'm happy. Pratyahara, or abstraction, is, as it were, the imitation by the senses of the mind by withdrawing them from their objects. That's pratyahara, detachment. Also explained just before. Pratyahara becomes second nature because of your incessant application of this detachment in your attempts to even come to concentration, to even stand still in a pose, asana. Over the years it becomes more and more refined, becomes second nature, and it will guide you everywhere. Then follows the greatest mastery over the senses. We have used the word Jnanendriya, Karmendriya and Tammatra now and then over the years, over the modules. Do you see the logic in these three concepts? You see there the paragraph that says the senses are 5 in number. But actually you see 15. Actually what this means is that there are 5 senses. There is a 6th sense also, but we're not considering that here. There are 5 senses which in general are called indriyas. And when talking about the indriyas, you talk about the senses in the general sense of the word, not considering their condition, the condition they are in. You then see Jnanendriya, which is an indriya is a sense, in sattva. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom. And what happens when you are in sattva is that you become receptive. You absorb information, you absorb the essence of things. Insight, knowledge, wisdom. So when senses are in sattva, you become very aware of the information that they get. That is, for example, when you're daydreaming. Contemplating. Jnana means wisdom. Karmendriya is an indriya in rajas. Rajas is movement. Karma means do. So indriya, that is doing. Your senses are active. Tammatra are the subtle elements But what you see in the word tamatra is matra. Matra is matter. It also means mother. It's very interesting, that combination, that connection. Mother Earth and Father in heaven. Rajas and tamas. So the elements, earth, water, fire, air and ether, is the condensation of the indriyas into matter. It is inert. So that is the three concepts explained logically. So indriyas in tamas, there's no activity, there's no perception, it's just inert, manifested into matter. So that is how your physical body came into being, into the five bhutas, starting with plasma, then blood, then bone tissue, muscle tissue, fat tissue. What do you have? Seven trunks of the elephant. So that is a manifestation of energy into matter, your physical body. And that is the end of the second chapter. So the second chapter ends, in fact, with Pratyahara. The third chapter, Vibhuti-pada, then continues with the last three steps of meditation. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. And what we will do with Vibhuti-pada, although we are not really going to practice it, but the third chapter of Patanjali really is about samyama. Samyama is even higher than samadhi. It is combining dharana, dhyana and samadhi into one triangle of light. So if you've read some of Alice Bailey's work, you will have come across samyama and the triangle of light, because it is being used for healing in esoteric healing, the book Esoteric Healing. Concentration is the confining of the mind within a limited mental area. The limited mental area is the desha that we discussed in the very first lesson of the first module of the advanced course. You're familiar with the concept of dharana. It is your attempt, your choice, in fact, to attempt to limit your attention to one object. You're not limited yet to that object. That takes time and practice. So it is your attempt. That's why we call it concentration. It becomes meditation, as described in the second sutra. Uninterrupted flow of the mind towards the object chosen for meditation is contemplation. We prefer not to call it contemplation. That is a word we use for samadhi, although that also doesn't really cover it. But contemplation is one step beyond dhyana. Dhyana is more consolidation of your attempts to concentrate on a single object and then succeeding into staying focused on that single object or subject. When you're not disturbed anymore, and technically not disturbed for 11 seconds in consecutive consecutive order, so not just one time 11 seconds, but 11 seconds with the short disruption, pratyahara, and then 11 seconds, at least 11 seconds of one-pointed focus, technically it can be considered dhyana, or meditation. Yeah?
Why is it 11 seconds?
I don't know. I don't know why it is 11 seconds. But I hope that this will put your mind at ease a little bit, because very often the impression is given that meditation means that you have no thoughts at all. And the reality is that 11 seconds of thoughtlessness is already quite an accomplishment. Just 11 seconds, think of it. But you condition your mind, you control your mind to such an extent that you have consecutive periods of 11 seconds of thoughtlessness interrupted by some kind of thought, which you then take control of again by applying pratyahara and go back to another following 11 seconds of thoughtlessness, or at least 11 seconds of thoughtlessness. So total thoughtlessness, that is almost impossible. You may find periods of more than 11 seconds of thoughtlessness when one day your samadhi exercise becomes really intense, when it becomes really nice. The third sutra describes samadhi. It says, the same contemplation when there is consciousness only of the object of meditation and not of itself. The mind is samadhi. Basically, what this sutra is telling us is that your meditation on an object or a subject becomes samadhi when you actually fuse, become one with the object. Can you imagine becoming one with something? You become one with something when you feel it and you are not thinking of it anymore. Can you follow this? You become one with something when you feel it. You're not thinking of it anymore. Have you ended up in a situation that when people see the things that you do and how you do it, that they are really surprised by it? It happens to me all the time. Why? Because I become one with everything that I do. Can you follow this? When I make coffee, I'm totally dedicated to making coffee. So when people are in my house and they see me making coffee, their eyes become big and they wonder, what the hell am I doing? But everything has a reason, and it leads to a perfect cup of coffee. Yes?
I've been thinking about this the whole time you've been talking, Ron. It might be relevant, but yesterday I made a sandwich. And honestly, it was the best sandwich. And
it became a sandwich.
yeah, no, but it was just the same thing in you. It was just when before you when you were talking, and I just called the phone a few days ago. Best sandwich of the year, basically. Like it really was. Like, and the girl who's living in my house, she happened to over-poach her egg this morning, and I looked for it because I knew there was a spare egg in the kitchen and I couldn't find it. and then later when I was making a sandwich, it was there, and it was just everything came together, and I was so happy when I was making the sandwich that it was just, I don't know, the universe really wanted me to make a sandwich. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So there you go. Just thought.
Still not so agree you're saying.
Well, I ruined John's sandwich by going on about how good I felt. I talked too much while John was eating the sandwich. That's the only thing that ruined John's sandwich experience.
It was a good sandwich.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Really, it totally made my day, and
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it even.
No, but now you know how it works. And you also know why your flatmate over-poached her egg. She's just not there. I hate it when other people are in my kitchen because they always ruin everything.
No, but it was perfect, because if she hadn't done that, my sandwich couldn't have happened, you know, so it was really the universe conspiring to make my sandwich the best one.
At the same time,
Yes.
I am very much a fan of Hannah's food. This is not about your food, actually.
Don't be talking any.
Her food is not like that. Okay. No, it's really good. My cousin in California, whenever I go see her, she'll always like try to cook for me. And she's the most controlling person I've ever met in my life. And she has no idea. And so I'm sometimes like, I just want a tuna sandwich. Like, I can make it. I don't need you to do anything. Like, I'm hungry. And 45 minutes later, she was literally like arranging nuts in my tuna. Like, I'm almost done. And I was like, I just want a sandwich. and she was so controlling, and like, it was really good. But I was like, where is the difference between being controlling and like overly attached to something?
Yeah.
And then being really focused and giving yourself to something.
It's just mindfulness. When you do something, you're totally there. You're committed. You. Well, Hannah became the sandwich. I become the coffee machine.
Right.
What it is about is understanding.
Right.
And you understand things when you touch the essence of it. So when I buy a coffee machine, the first cup of coffee is not that good. But then I start to understand how it works and what I need to do to make it better, even to the point that I understand that I have to grind my beans finer or more gross or whatever. And you apply this. When I was living with my wife, she couldn't stand the fact that I could cook. I mean, she is the wife, and she. When she cooked, she was just all over the place. And the food was not bad, but just so. And I had no recipes. I always cook from inspiration. And I never cooked something the same twice. But she started writing down everything. She was so impressed with my food, that she was so scared to lose it, that she had a whole notebook full of things that I'd made. Kind of like she wanted to preserve it, not afraid to lose it. I don't care. Next time I make something else and it's not the same as it was before, but it's even better. Or anyway, it's delicious. And how do you do that? Just by being involved. Just by becoming one with it. So that's samadhi in practice, in fact. So it's very interesting that you share this, because it shows that you are on the same path of development. I drive a car like that also. I am one with the car. People have actually said that. Wow, how is it possible? You go through this little space I thought you would bump into, or the way I reverse the car or maneuver the car. That's nothing new for me. That's nothing special. But it seems people think it is special. Now I understand why. I just become one with the car. I feel the car. I savor the vibration of the engine and everything. I understand on a deep level how everything works. Just happened. Why? Because when you do something, you just do that. Do just that. That is how you become one with anything. With a person too. In a relationship, that is a huge asset. Now you know why Sammy is so crazy about me. And I about her, of course. But same. Understanding the essence and becoming one with it. With the car, with your partner, with your dog. That is why Vitji is such a sweet dog. So lovely. That's how it works. That is what this sutra is saying actually. Okay, that was it for the morning. I'm very curious to your sandwich. Okay, let's have a short break.
Did you make me one? Because we didn't make me one.
No.
Yeah, Ron, if you're going to talk about your coffee and your food, you have to like bring them. Amazing, the coffee's so great. How do we really know if you're really like